105 Esoteric Traditions of the World, Book 5, Prophecy and Extinction, by Lang Z. Matthews. Chapter 2, Kalachakra, Apocalypse Teachings, Time as the Final Deity. 1. Opening image, the flaming mandala and the turning wheel. In the mind's eye, see it. A vast mandala suspended in the black void, its outer rim encircled by lotus petals made of flame. The petals flicker but do not consume themselves. They are the fire of time, perpetual and self-born. Within this blazing perimeter spins the wheel of time, the Kalachakra. Its spokes are not inert. They are alive, humming with mantra syllables, their turning shaping the cycles of universes. Each rotation is an age. Each completed revolution births a king, destroys a kingdom, dissolves a karma. This wheel does not tick forward as a clock does. It breathes. It inhales creation and exhales dissolution. When it turns inward, worlds collapse into seeds. When it turns outward, those seeds unfold into new forms. There is no pause between, only the seamless inhalation and exhalation of cosmic order. The Kalachakra teachings are the most apocalyptic strand of Tibetan Vajrayana, but their apocalypse is not fire raining from the sky or a divine hand erasing the world. They offer something both more precise and more incomprehensible, a map of time itself, not time as a human construct measured by clocks and calendars, but time as a living being, a deity whose body is the past, whose breath is the present, whose gaze fixes the future. In these teachings, degeneration is no accident. It is the waning arc of a great cosmic breath, inevitable once the exhalation reaches its final edge. Civilizations fray, morality thins, the mind's clarity dims, not as random decay, but as the predictable consequence of the wheel's turning. And yet, just as predictably, renewal comes. The turning is not into nothing, but into the clearing from which the next age will rise. The wheel of time is not only an object in vision, it is a mandala that can be drawn, painted, or imagined in the mind's most lucid state. Practitioners study its layers not for artistic skill, but for initiation into its logic. The outer circles map the vast cycles of the cosmos. The middle rings chart the cycles of human society and the kingdoms that rise and fall within it. The innermost circles show the body itself, its channels, its winds, its drops, mirroring the same turning that governs stars and empires. To enter the Kalachakra is to learn that your breath is a miniature apocalypse and rebirth, and that every pulse in your arteries is a microcosm of the cosmic clock. The lotus flames around the wheel are not decoration. They are the fires that both protect and purify. To cross their ring in the meditative vision is to leave behind the ordinary perception of time as a straight line and enter into the nonlinear breathing time of the deity. In the center of the mandala sits Kalachakra, time itself, often depicted as a deity with multiple faces and arms, holding implements of creation and destruction. Each face sees a different eon, each hand turns a different wheel. To stand before this vision is to realize this is not a prophecy of doom. This is not a warning to prepare for an ending that might be avoided. This is a clock, but a clock made of mantra and mandala, ticking not toward annihilation, but toward transformation. When its great cycle completes, the degeneration of the world will meet its counterforce, the arising of the Shambhala king, who will turn the wheel anew, scattering the armies of chaos and planting the seeds of the next golden age. The Kalachakra does not moralize in the way of some other traditions. It does not say, behave or the end will come. It says, the end will come because the wheel turns. Your choice is not whether to halt the wheel, you cannot, but whether to align yourself with the forces that will survive its next revolution. To train in the Kalachakra is to synchronize your inner breath with the wheel's great breath, so that when the world exhales into collapse, you exhale with it, empty, unafraid, ready to inhale the first breath of the next age. 2. Core teaching. Time is divine and the end is timed. Kalachakra, Sanskrit for wheel of time, is not a single thing that can be reduced to a definition. It is 4 things at once: a tantra, a deity, a mandala, and a cosmological model. Each of these is complete in itself, yet they are facets of the same diamond, and none can be fully understood without the others. As a tantra, Kalachakra is a vast and intricate body of scripture and oral instruction, one of the most elaborate in all of Tibetan Vajrayana. It contains initiations, visualizations, mantra recitations, yogic practices, and elaborate meditative constructions of the universe. Its language is dense, layered with codes, allegories, and cross-references to earlier tantric systems. This is not a text meant for casual reading. It is a living discipline transmitted from teacher to student, sealed with vows, and unfolded across years of practice. As a deity, Kalachakra is the personification of time itself, both its inner flow and its outer manifestations. He is depicted as a wrathful figure with multiple faces, each gazing in a different direction, symbolizing mastery over the past, present, and future. His arms hold implements that create, destroy, purify, and protect. He is not a god of time in the mythological sense. He is time as God, time as Buddha, the enlightened embodiment of the universal cycle. As a mandala, Kalachakra is a precise architectural diagram of reality. Concentric circles, squares, and lotus petals form layers upon layers of symbolic space, each containing deities, seed syllables, and directional guardians. The mandala is both a map of the cosmos and a diagram of the human body's subtle channels. Its outermost circles depict the great cycles of cosmic time, the rise and fall of universes. The middle circles map the cycles of human society, empires, kingdoms, and eras. The innermost circles chart the microcosmic time of the human body, its breaths, energies, and moments of awareness. The same laws operate in each ring. What turns on the outside turns on the inside. As a cosmological model, Kalachakra describes time as an interlinked system of patterns, each nested within the other. The cycle of a breath, the cycle of a day, the cycle of a human life, the cycle of a civilization, the cycle of an eon. They all turn according to the same mathematics of arising, abiding, decline, and dissolution. Time is not a straight line with a beginning and end. It is a wheel with a hub that never moves. The central teaching of Kalachakra is as radical as it is precise. Time is not a passive medium. It is a living deity with inner and outer expressions. We do not pass through time as if through an empty corridor. We live inside a breathing, conscious field that shapes us as we shape it. Time's outer form is the turning of planets, the seasons, the unfolding of history. Time's inner form is the pulse of awareness, the rise and fall of thoughts, the inhalation and exhalation of the breath. In this vision, civilizations themselves are like breaths. They arise from stillness, expand, sustain, then collapse back into stillness, only to arise again in a different form. The pattern is inevitable, not because of fate in the superstitious sense, but because the law of cycles governs all compounded things. Nothing built in time escapes the turning of time. Kalachakra prophecy states that we are living in the Kali Yuga, the age of degeneration. This is not a vague metaphor, it is a timed phase in the great cycle. In the Kali Yuga, moral clarity fades, spiritual discipline weakens, and the harmony of inner and outer worlds unravels. The texts describe in chilling precision the signs of this era: leaders who lead for personal gain, violence as public entertainment, the earth's resources taken without care, and the collective mind clouded by distraction and greed. Yet, the degeneration is not the end of the story. In the Kalachakra model, when the decline reaches its deepest point, the turning wheel will bring forth a counterforce. From the hidden kingdom of Shambhala, a Chakravartin king, a universal ruler who turns the wheel of Dharma, will arise. This is not a symbolic ruler in the poetic sense. The texts treat his emergence as a concrete, timed event. His reign will begin with the gathering of the forces of order against the armies of chaos, both outer and inner. Through a combination of wisdom and force, he will dissolve the structures of degeneration and inaugurate a new golden age. This event is not left floating in mythic uncertainty. Kalachakra prophecy gives the year, in its own calendrical code, of the great battle and the start of renewal. These calculations, embedded in the tantric system, align the rise of the Chakravartin king with astronomical cycles and hidden teachings on the body's internal rhythms. The prophecy is not esoteric fiction. It is a timed pattern encoded in the Kalachakra mandala itself. Just as the practitioner can look at the mandala and see the cycles of breath and meditation, so can the trained initiate read from it the turning points of civilizations. For those outside the tradition, the idea of a literal king emerging from a hidden realm to restore order may seem like allegory. Within the Kalachakra lineage, it is both literal and symbolic. Shambhala may be a physical realm, invisible to uninitiated perception, and it is also a state of perfected society within the mind. The Chakravartin king may be a historical figure yet to come, and he is also the awakened awareness that arises in the practitioner when inner chaos has been subdued. The point is not to argue which reading is true. The point is that the prophecy is structured to be true on multiple levels at once. On the outer level, it is the renewal of an age. On the inner level, it is the moment when the practitioner's own mind passes from degeneration into clarity, from distraction into the golden age of continuous awareness. Kalachakra teaches that to prepare for the outer renewal, one must accomplish the inner. To meet the wheel's next great turning in harmony, the practitioner must synchronize their own microcosmic wheel with the cosmic wheel. In this way, the prophecy becomes not a date to await, but a discipline to embody. And in that discipline, the end of the world is not feared. It is recognized as the moment the wheel inhales again, drawing all back to the center before breathing the next age into being. 3. Spiritual condition, inner collapse mirrors, outer apocalypse. In the Kalachakra vision, the apocalypse does not begin with the clash of armies or the collapse of cities. It begins in the mind. The great outer battle, foretold to erupt when the Kali Yuga reaches its nadir, is only the reflection of a deeper, more insidious battle already raging within the consciousness of individuals and civilizations alike. The degeneration of the age is, first and foremost, the degeneration of awareness. The texts speak plainly. When inner morality collapses, outer order cannot hold. Virtue erodes quietly, like water undermining the foundation of a building. At first, the structure still stands, but the strength is gone. This inner erosion manifests as selfishness, greed, and the abandonment of discipline. Not because people no longer know what is right, but because they no longer care to do it. Once the axis of inner law wobbles, all other measures, political systems, social codes, even spiritual institutions, follow it into instability. As morality falters, attention turns obsessively to the outer. In the Kali Yuga, the Kalachakra texts describe a civilization consumed by warfare, not necessarily constant battle, but a constant orientation toward it. The mind is weaponized. Armies are built, machines of destruction perfected, strategies drawn and redrawn. This fixation is not limited to military conflict. It is the militarization of life itself. The treatment of all human interaction as competition, all resources as territory to be seized, all relationships as power struggles to be won or lost. Materialism deepens the decline. When wealth becomes the ultimate measure, the rhythm of life breaks. Rituals are abandoned as inefficient. Natural cycles are ignored in favor of profit schedules. Leaders rule not as stewards of balance, but as managers of extraction. In such a climate, spiritual kingship, the ideal of the ruler as the embodiment of virtue and cosmic alignment, becomes impossible. Those who ascend to power do so through manipulation, not merit, through ambition, not service. The Kalachakra canon identifies 5 degenerations that mark the end of an age. These are not vague metaphors. They are precise indicators, visible in both outer society and the inner state of mind. Degeneration of the era, Kala. Time itself feels compressed and unstable. Seasons lose their rhythm, the years pass with increasing speed, and yet each moment feels thin, without depth. historical memory shrinks. The sense of continuity between generations weakens. Degeneration of emotion, klesha. The mental poisons, greed, anger, delusion, pride, and envy, intensify. They cease to be occasional disturbances and become the default climate of the mind. Even spiritual practice becomes infected, pursued for status, control, or escape, rather than liberation. Degeneration of beings, sattva. Human vitality declines. Bodies are weaker, less resilient. Minds are more easily distracted and exhausted. Compassion becomes rare. Trust erodes. Communities fracture into suspicion and isolation. Degeneration of view, DROST. The understanding of reality itself becomes distorted. False views spread unchecked, and the distinction between truth and falsehood blurs. Sacred teachings are misinterpreted or deliberately inverted. People begin to mock the very principles that once anchored their world. Degeneration of lifespan, Ayu. Life expectancy shortens, not always in literal years, but in the fullness of life. Days are filled with noise and empty pursuits. Even long lives feel rushed, unrooted, unfinished. These degenerations are interwoven. The collapse of view feeds the collapse of morality. The degeneration of beings accelerates the degeneration of the era. It is a systemic unraveling, not a series of isolated events. And in Kalachakra thought, this unraveling is both inevitable, because the wheel turns, and reversible, because each individual can align themselves with the inner axis even as the outer spokes fracture. The outer apocalypse, in this framework, is the visible echo of this inner collapse. Wars erupt because the mind is at war with itself. Economies falter because values have been hollowed out. Ecological systems destabilize because the inner ecology, our relationship to body, breath, and awareness, has already been disturbed. The burning of forests, the rising of seas, the failing of institutions, these are the symptoms, not the cause. In such a time, the antidote is not panic. Panic is another form of degeneration, a short-circuiting of clarity, a collapse into reactivity. The Kalachakra path teaches inner preparation as the only viable defense. This preparation is not hoarding supplies or building fortresses. It is stabilizing the mind, purifying the view, restoring rhythm to breath and awareness. In this way, the practitioner becomes like the still hub of the wheel, unmoved even as the outer rim spins through chaos. The texts encapsulate it in a single line. The battle at the end of the age is not only between armies, but between clear mind and the darkening wheel. This is why, in Kalachakra, the apocalypse is never merely a political or environmental crisis. It is a crisis of perception. If the mind collapses into fear, hatred, or delusion, then even a golden age would be experienced as suffering. But if the mind holds its clarity through the turning, then even in the thick of degeneration, the seeds of renewal are already sprouting. Thus, the preparation for the coming Chakravartin king, for the outer restoration of order, begins with the restoration of order in oneself. Without that, no prophecy can be fulfilled in its deeper sense, and no golden age will be more than another turn toward decline. 4. Inner technology, Kalachakra Tantra, and time-body alignment. The Kalachakra path is not a set of abstract ideas or speculative cosmology. It is a system of precise inner technologies designed to align the practitioner with the living cycles of time, so precisely that when the great turning arrives, the practitioner meets it without fear, disorientation, or loss of awareness. These technologies are exacting, difficult, and rarely entered without years of prior preparation. They belong to the class of highest Yoga Tantra, the most advanced level of Vajrayana practice, where meditation is no longer about observing the mind, but about reshaping reality from its innermost structure. The tools of Kalachakra can be grouped into 4 interwoven disciplines: the Tantra itself, deity yoga, mandala transmission, and the discipline of inner time. Each is both a practice in its own right and a facet of the others. Together, they create the means to synchronize the microcosmic human body with the macrocosmic wheel of time. 1. Kalachakra Tantra Practice. The Kalachakra Tantra is the textual and oral foundation of the system. It is vast, intricate, and notoriously difficult to penetrate without a qualified teacher. As a highest yoga tantra, it contains every aspect of Vajrayana technology, generation stage visualization, completion stage yogas, mantra recitation, subtle bodywork, and advanced initiations. The centerpiece of the generation stage practice is the visualization of Kalachakra and his consort Vishvamata within the 5-layered palace of the Kalachakra mandala. Each layer corresponds to a different dimension of reality, outer, inner, and secret, and each is inhabited by deities and symbols aligned to specific elements, directions, and planetary forces. The practitioner builds this palace in the mind with exact precision. Each wall, each gate, each deity placed according to scripture. This construction is not artistic indulgence. It is the architecture of time itself. By holding the image with clarity while reciting mantras, the practitioner begins to align inner and outer time. Mantra, breath, and mudra act together. The mantra vibrates through the subtle channels, the breath is regulated to mirror cosmic cycles, and mudras, ritual hand gestures, seal the alignment in body and energy. When performed correctly, the practitioner begins to feel time not as something that flows past them, but as something they are embedded in, something they can feel turning in the breath, in the heartbeat, in the space between thoughts. 2. Deity Yoga with Time Personified. The second technology is Deity Yoga, in which the meditator embodies Kalachakra as divine time consciousness. In Vajrayana, Deity Yoga is not worship of an external god, but the recognition and cultivation of one's own awakened nature in a specific enlightened form. Here, that form is time itself. The practitioner dissolves their ordinary body into emptiness, then arises as Kalachakra. The body is experienced as the mandala palace, its channels and winds as corridors and currents, its organs as chambers of elemental power. The mind becomes the movement of planets, the rotation of the seasons, the opening and closing of aeons. Through this identification, the microcosmic and macrocosmic rhythms are synchronized. The meditator is no longer a small being moving through a vast timeline, but the awareness in which the timeline itself appears. In this state, the prophecy of degeneration and renewal is not something to believe or disbelieve, it is simply the breathing of one's own deeper body. 3. Mandala Transmission. In Kalachakra, the mandala is not a symbol to be contemplated at a distance. It is a portal to the structure of time itself. The empowerment, dibang, into Kalachakra practice is always given in the context of the mandala. This transmission is visual, auditory, and spatial. The initiate is led through the gates of the mandala in the mind's eye, introduced to each deity and chamber, and sealed into the structure through mantras and visualizations. The mandala is a cosmological engine. Its outer rings hold representations of the planets, constellations, and elemental realms. Its middle circles map the cycles of human society, while its innermost palace reflects the subtle body of the practitioner. The initiate learns that these are not separate. To turn the wheel of one layer is to affect all others. In the highest form of this transmission, the practitioner receives the complete Kalachakra mandala in memory. Each measurement, each color, each syllable exact. Over time, they may learn to draw it unaided, an act that is itself a meditation on the perfection of cycles. Optional insert. A monk in a remote monastery spends months creating the full mandala from memory, grain by grain of colored sand. At the final brushstroke, he weeps. Not for its beauty, but because the final gesture landed at the precise, astrologically chosen moment. The mandala's completion was not artistic, it was timed to the pulse of the cosmos. 4. Apocalypse Preparation through Inner Time Discipline. The Kalachakra path treats the apocalypse not as an abstract fear, but as an event with a date in cosmic time, a moment when the wheel's outer cycles will bring degeneration to its climax. Preparation for this moment is not about defense against chaos. It is about alignment with inevitability. Practitioners train in tracking planetary cycles, eclipses, and historical epochs according to the Kalachakra calendar. They learn to mark the subtle correspondences between outer astronomical events and inner energetic shifts. This is not astrology for prediction. It is astrology for synchronization. One of the most profound aspects of this discipline is the meditative rehearsal of death, disassembly, and spiritual rebirth. The practitioner dissolves their inner mandala, breath, and awareness into the clear light of the void, rehearsing the dissolution of body and world. Then, from that void, they remanifest the mandala in perfect form. This cycle mirrors the dissolution and recreation of ages, world into seed, seed into world. By repeating this inner apocalypse again and again in meditation, the practitioner learns to meet the outer apocalypse without confusion. The end, when it comes, will be nothing unfamiliar, only another turning of the same wheel they have turned within themselves. In the Kalachakra view, these four technologies, Tantra practice, deity embodiment, mandala transmission, and inner time discipline, are not optional extras. They are the very means by which one survives the great turning with clarity intact. Without them, the apocalypse is disorienting and frightening. With them, it is simply another breath in the great respiration of time. And in this lies the quiet, paradoxical promise of the Kalachakra path. The better one prepares for the end, the less one fears it, and the more one can greet it not as a disaster, but as a precisely timed dawn. 5. Symbol. The Wheel of Time surrounded by flame lotus. In the Kalachakra vision, no image is more charged with meaning than the Wheel of Time encircled by flame lotus petals. It is the emblem of the Tantra, the body of the deity, and the very blueprint of cosmic renewal. This is not a decorative motif. It is a full transmission in a single image, a condensed cosmology that carries within it the essence of the teachings. At its heart is the wheel, its circular form signifying the motion of existence, the ceaseless turning of birth, life, decay, and rebirth. In Buddhist thought, the wheel, chakra, often represents the Dharma, the teaching that turns the mind toward awakening. In Kalachakra, it is more than that. It is time itself in motion. Each spoke of the wheel represents the interwoven cycles of the cosmos, planetary revolutions, the turning of ages, the rise and fall of civilizations, and the subtle pulsations of the human body and mind. To look upon the wheel is to see that nothing in existence stands apart from its turning. Every life, every world, every star is a passenger on its rim. The wheel also carries the law of karma, the reality that what is set in motion will return. Just as the wheel turns to bring a spoke back to its original position, so too do actions return to their origin in consequence. In this way, the Wheel of Time is not only the mechanism of existence, but also the mirror of moral law. The cycles are not random, they are shaped by the momentum of choices, both personal and collective. Surrounding the wheel are the flames, a ring of fire that defines the boundary between the temporal world and the mandala's interior. In Kalachakra iconography, these flames are not only destructive, they are purifying. They burn away the impurities, delusions, and unaligned energies that cannot enter the center. They are the fire of impermanence itself, devouring all forms that cannot withstand the truth of the wheel's turning. In their light, the impermanent nature of all compounded things is revealed, and the practitioner learns to release attachment to anything that rides the outer rim. Yet these flames are not bare. They emerge from the tips of lotus petals. The lotus is one of the most ancient symbols in Indian and Tibetan spirituality, representing purity born from the mud, awakening that emerges from the turbulence of samsara. Here, the lotus petals signify spiritual potential blooming at the very edge of annihilation. Just as the lotus rises from the muck of the pond without stain, so too does awakening emerge from within the cycles of destruction and renewal. The combination of flame and lotus is a paradox made visible, destruction that nourishes, annihilation that makes space for bloom. It tells the practitioner that the end of an age is not a sterile void, but the fertile edge where the seeds of the next age sprout. The petals remind us that there is beauty and grace even in the fire, and that the purifying burn is itself the preparation for new life. Cosmologically, the symbol teaches that the wheel is not an escape mechanism, it is a call to realignment. Many people imagine liberation as getting off the wheel, stepping away from time's turning altogether. In Kalachakra, the teaching is subtler. You do not stop the wheel, you find your stillness at its center. To live at the hub is to live in alignment with the turning, untouched by the turbulence at the rim, yet fully engaged with the law it expresses. The hub does not resist the turning, nor does it spin. It simply is. This is the position of the awakened one, not outside of time, but in perfect harmony with it. To be at the center of the wheel of time is to hold both destruction and renewal in the same awareness, to see fire and lotus as one continuum, to witness civilizations rise and fall without being swept into their extremes. Visualization practice. The practitioner is invited to seat themselves physically or in meditation at the center of the mandala. With the eyes of the mind, they see the great wheel of time turning around them, vast and luminous. At its edges, the flames roar, devouring the forms of the old age, even as from the flames' tips, the lotus petals open, releasing fragrance and light. Beyond the flames, the outer world spins, its empires rising and collapsing, its seasons circling, its stars wheeling overhead. In this vision, you do not move with the rim, you remain still. Your breath slows until it matches the pulse of the wheel's center, the axis around which all turns but which itself is unmoved. You feel the pull of the outer world, the rush of events, the heat of destruction, the cool unfolding of petals, but none of it drags you from the center. This is the posture of Kalachakra in human form, the axis of time embodied. From here, the apocalypse is not a catastrophe, but a phase of the cycle. Renewal is not an unexpected grace, but the natural continuation of the turn. You are not racing against time. You are time, awake to itself, holding the still point from which the next age will arise. 6. Key danger: romanticized without practice. In the past few decades, Kalachakra has become one of the most publicized and exoticized elements of Tibetan Buddhism in the Western imagination. Large-scale initiations by prominent lamas have drawn thousands of attendees, many with little or no background in Vajrayana, eager to receive the empowerment and take home the idea that they now hold the key to Shambhala's gates. The word itself, Kalachakra, circulates in books, podcasts, and internet forums like a mystical password, stripped of the rigors that give it its real force. This fascination is not inherently wrong, but it carries a hidden danger: the romanticization of Kalachakra without the commitment to practice. In the West especially, interest tends to cluster around two alluring aspects: the apocalyptic Shambhala prophecy and the intricate beauty of the mandala. The first promises a thrilling end-times narrative with a clear hero. The second offers a dazzling piece of sacred art. Both are easy to consume at the level of story and symbol, without engaging with the years of preparation, ethical vows, and subtle body training that make these elements more than curiosities. Stripped from the tantric discipline, the Shambhala prophecy is flattened into spiritual science fiction. A hidden kingdom, a prophesied king, a climactic battle. In this version, it becomes indistinguishable from any other fantasy saga, except that it wears the borrowed robes of Buddhist tradition. The Kalachakra mandala, meanwhile, is appreciated like a piece of surreal art, intricate, colorful, and mysterious, yet divorced from its function as a working diagram of the cosmos and the body's subtle anatomy. What disappears in this hollowing out is the recognition that Kalachakra is not an entertainment, nor a loose set of metaphors for personal inspiration. It is a highest yoga tantra, meaning that its effective use demands mastery of the foundational levels of Buddhist ethics, meditation, and philosophical view. The empowerment into Kalachakra is not a collectible. It is a binding agreement, entered with vows that require daily practice, mental discipline, and the cultivation of specific states of mind. Without empowerment, deity yoga cannot be undertaken in its full form. Without the generation and completion stage training that precedes it, the visualization of Kalachakra as time embodied remains a hollow image, devoid of the energetic precision that allows it to alter the practitioner's inner and outer rhythms. Without the oral instructions, the intricate measurements of the mandala are simply decorative rather than acting as coordinates in a living cosmological engine. The prophecy itself, so often plucked from context, also suffers from romanticization. To imagine Shambhala as merely a distant utopia that will rescue the world is to miss the core instruction. Shambhala must be built first within the practitioner's own mind. The Chakravartin king's arrival is not an invitation to spectate, but a summons to align one's own life with the principles of clarity, discipline, and compassion that make the Golden Age possible. The end of the Kali Yuga, as described in Kalachakra, is not just an outer shift in the world's conditions. It is the turning point that becomes survivable only through inner purification. This purification is not vague moral advice. It is a systematic cleansing of mental afflictions, habitual distortions, and energetic blockages. The rhythmic re-entry into time's sacred architecture is not poetry. It is the literal synchronization of the body's subtle winds with the great cosmic cycles, so that when the wheel turns, the practitioner turns with it rather than being flung from its rim. To bypass this work is to treat Kalachakra as a myth, compelling, perhaps even inspiring, but inert. And an inert Kalachakra is worse than no Kalachakra at all, because it offers the illusion of knowledge without the substance of transformation. The great teachers of this tradition have repeatedly warned against treating the Tantra as a curiosity or a mere intellectual subject. The very complexity of Kalachakra exists to ensure that it is not undertaken casually. Every line of the text, every detail of the mandala, every phase of the visualization is a gear in the same mechanism. Remove one, and the rest will not function as intended. In the end, the prophecy is practical. It is not there to comfort or to frighten. It is there to direct attention toward the training that makes survival, both physical and spiritual, possible when the great dissolution comes. Without the purification of mind and the realignment of one's inner clock to the wheel's turn, the outer Shambhala could pass through this world unnoticed, invisible to those who are out of rhythm with its frequency. The danger, then, is not that Kalachakra will be misunderstood. It is that it will be consumed without digestion, admired without embodiment. Without practice, it remains a beautiful myth. With practice, it becomes a functioning map for navigating the end of illusion and the birth of a new age. The choice between those two outcomes lies not in the turning of the wheel, but in the willingness to step into the discipline it demands. 7. The Flame and the King. What can be carried forward? Not everyone will enter the mandala of Kalachakra in its full formal sense. The vows, transmissions, and visualizations of the highest Yoga Tantra demand a depth of preparation that most will never seek, and even fewer will complete. This does not mean that the essence of the Kalachakra teaching is closed to the wider world. Like the light of a flame, it radiates beyond the walls of its temple. One does not need to sit on the throne of the Chakravartin king to feel the heat and guidance of that light. The first and simplest transmission is this: time is not your enemy. Time is your teacher. In an age when the passing of years is often treated as a thief, stealing youth, stealing opportunity, Kalachakra offers another view. Time is the measure of the wheels turning, the breath of the cosmos. It does not conspire against you, it moves you through the curriculum of existence. The real suffering comes not from time's movement, but from living out of rhythm with it. When your days, thoughts, and actions are in harmony with the larger cycles, you stop struggling to hold the wheel still. Instead, you ride its turning as a navigator rides the tide. This leads directly to the second principle that anyone can carry. Inner rhythm rebuilds outer order. When the age collapses, whether in political upheaval, environmental disruption, or personal loss, the temptation is to rush outward, to attempt to reorder the world before reordering the self. Kalachakra inverts this reflex. The wheel teaches that the hub is what governs the rim. If you restore balance to your own breath, thought, and awareness, you are already contributing to the larger restoration. A single mind synchronized with the hub has more weight than 1,000 spinning in panic. The third transmission is as old as the Dharma itself. Clear awareness, held at the center, can survive the outer storm. Kalachakra's apocalypse is not a call to bunker down or escape into fantasy. It is a call to remain awake at the axis even when the rim is on fire. This clarity is not passive watching, it is active alignment. It means holding the center without denial of the destruction and without attachment to the blooming petals. The wheel turns, the flames rise, the lotuses open and fall, and still the center abides. Shambhala, in this view, is not only a hidden kingdom waiting to be revealed. It is a state of readiness, lineage, and light field. Readiness, the mental and energetic discipline to meet the great turning without confusion. Lineage, the recognition that one stands in a chain of transmission, whether formal or informal, that carries the memory of cosmic rhythm. Light field, the subtle but palpable influence exerted by those who live at the center, an influence that can stabilize others simply by its presence. For some, Shambhala will remain a mystery of place, a question of whether it exists on a hidden plateau, in another dimension, or only in the mind of the realized. For others, Shambhala will be recognized as a living frequency, a shared orientation toward clarity and alignment. To dwell in Shambhala, in this latter sense, is to live already in the next age, even while the current one burns around you. And then there is the question that hangs over all prophecy. What if the promised savior does not come? What if the Chakravartin king does not ride out of the hidden realm with the armies of light? What if the outer cycle reaches its nadir and no clear hand turns it back toward renewal? Kalachakra does not give a single answer, because in truth it offers two at once. The first, the king will come, because the wheel's timing demands it. The second, if the king does not come for you, then you must become your own axis of time. To become your own axis does not mean self-aggrandizement or declaring yourself a messiah. It means taking responsibility for the turning of your own wheel, ensuring that it spins in harmony with the great cycle. It means refusing to let the 5 degenerations take root in your mind, even if they overrun the world outside. It means carrying the rhythm of Shambhala in your breath, so that wherever you stand becomes a still point in the storm. In this way, the flame and the king are both internalized. The flame is your discernment, burning away delusion. The king is your awakened awareness, steadying the wheel. Whether or not you ever step through the gates of the painted mandala, you can live its center into being. And if enough people do that, then Shambhala will not be a distant realm to wait for. It will be a network of still points, linked by the shared vow to let the wheel turn without losing the hub. This, above all, can be carried forward, not the outer trappings of the Tantra, but the inner posture it demands. To stand as the axis of time in your own life is to honor the teaching without stealing from it, to align with its truth without pretending to hold its secret keys. In the end, the wheel does not ask for ownership. It asks for alignment, and that any sincere seeker can begin today. 8. Closing reflection. Be still in the turning. The wheel turns. It has always turned. Around its rim, worlds are born, ripen, decay, and dissolve. Flames lick its edges, purifying what cannot endure. From those flames, lotus petals open, soft, fragrant, defiant in their beauty at the brink of annihilation. And then they too fall, their seeds carried into the next cycle. It is easy to be caught at the rim. There, the motion is fast, the pull is strong. Events come in rapid succession, each demanding attention, each pulling you further from the center. At the rim, the fire looks like chaos, and the petals look like fragile hope. The turning feels like a threat. The center tells another story. There, the movement slows until it vanishes into stillness.